And we are live.
Alrighty. And I am waiting for this to start. Okay, I am recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed.
Why would they do it cheer publicity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we have an exciting show for you.
As always.
As always, all kinds of big stuff going on in the world. We're going to cover it all accurately, fairly, and with a reasonable tone to our voices. It's going to be no hyperbole. It's going to be straight up from
None that we know of.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from our perspective, from our limited knowledge base, this is the truth. And that's all that matters, really. At the end of the day, you know, the world is what you make it. So Joe Biden has passed his first widely accepted bipartisan stimulus bill, $1.9 trillion, which if you look at terms of economic recovery is one of the largest single amounts ever spent. It almost goes back to like New Deal type stuff in terms of the amount of money and where it went. But then everyone, well, most people get checks that can go into their bank very soon, unless they owe back child support or haven't paid their credit cards, which now can be taken out of your stimulus check, but under the Trump checks couldn't be. You didn't know about that?
No.
Yep. Yeah. These stimulus checks, your creditors can go after. The first two, they couldn't.
So that's why Biden didn't put his name on it.
Well, remember, Biden was the senator from Delaware. And if you know anything about financial markets, all the credit card companies are incorporated in Delaware because they have very friendly laws for incorporating there. And also the senators are for sale.
Thanks, Fight Club.
Yeah. I don't know that for sure. Oh, is that from Fight Club too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the buildings they're blowing up at the end of Fight Club.
Oh, they're built.
All the credit agencies in Delaware.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know what you mentioned. I thought it was New York for some reason, but yeah.
Well, I mean, because post 9/11.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I've just seen the movie. I think I read that book. I don't remember. But yeah. Anyway, it's a known fact that.
Yeah. In the book, they go into more detail about that. In the movie, they don't mention it, but that's what they're doing at the end.
Okay.
Did you see that new? Or I guess it's like it's not necessarily new footage of the towers going down, and there was like a different view of it where you could see like the center column like still up for like a little bit before it was just all fell down.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's fucking weird looking. But you can't really tell what's going on because after a while, just like all the smoke builds up and you can't see it. But like there's just one angle where it's like the tower collapses, but then there's just the whole center column is still standing for about 20 seconds. It just it looks weird and ominous, covering the smoke, and then the smoke covers it, obscures it, and I assume it just falls also.
That's when they set off the secondary thing. Building 7, 9/11, new angle. Yeah, that's I haven't seen that. Let's look at that. It's weird that there's footage that they're still finding.
I mean, it's probably been out there before, but somebody just, it's Reddit, so it's always like somebody rediscovering something and throwing it up on Reddit, pretending they found it or whatever.
Yeah. Boy, 9/11 truth would be a breath of fresh air compared to some of the shit that's going on now. People would pine for 9/11 truth. Oh, I wish it was the crazy old days. Have you seen the South Park quarantine?
I have not.
Okay, well, I won't talk about it then.
Okay.
You got to watch it. There's some.
All
It's
right.
it's everything those guys do well.
That-
Just all hilarious.
It went head to head with AEW Dynamite, so that's
Oh.
which ends up being that was a huge. So usually when AEW has their post pay-per-view show, like they get really good ratings, but this time it just kind of like it really wasn't there. It was like a kind of an average to low rating for them, and they're like, ooh, like is that a problem? And it's like well, no, because South Park was the #1 show that night, and it probably grabbed a lot of people away from their show.
Oh, okay. You can see it on HBO Max too.
Yeah. Is it the start of a new season, or is it just one of their specials that they're doing?
It's their specials. They're not doing full seasons.
Okay.
They haven't done full seasons in 2 years, I think.
Oh, I thought that was new. I thought like during the pandemic they switched over to this like kind of like specials or whatever.
Oh, well, that could. I thought I thought they did specials before that, but I could be wrong. I just know it came up when I watched it, and I was like, "Oh God."
They weren't weirdly on the side of like something, right? They're
No.
Okay.
I mean, they always claim to be, because what when Trump got elected, they said, "Oh, we've always been Republicans. You guys didn't know this," and then you never. It's like, oh, they're just jerking the media around.
Yeah. Well, then also they're saying like he's already a joke, so we're not going to make fun of him, which seemed like weirdly complicit. It's like, well, there's nothing to make fun of. It's like he's already a joke, but then that seemed like they're just like giving him wide breath to not bring him down, which seemed like completely counter to what they usually do. But like those guys are total contrarians, so like whatever you want to say they are, they're just gonna
Yeah.
do the opposite of it, whether they believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, they hate Hollywood. They hate the media. They hate liberals. They hate conservatives.
Yes, yeah.
They hate. Well, they seem to come down really hard on liberals because it's like the one. I forget how they said it once. It's like, well, it's kind of what I believe too. It's like the conservatives are obviously bad and not trying to hide it. Like they can say whatever they want to, but really their objectives are awful and everyone knows it, including them. But the liberals try to pretend they're on the side of good and they're all so bad, and that's they always like. I mean, that's always been a thing from back when they went to win the Oscar for best song, and they just took a bunch of acid just because it's like, we don't care about this. We were tripping balls the whole Oscar ceremony, but so was everyone else. Yeah, so it was anyway. It's funny. You just watch it. We'll talk about it later.
All right.
It's not like just, oh my God, I'm going to shit my pants. It's funny, but it is. It's funny. It's good to have South Park back every so often.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this point of view. So, I didn't really have much else to say about that.
Should I talk about F1, or want me to talk about the AEW Revolution pay-per-view?
We'll talk about that because you paid a lot of money to watch that last week.
It was a really good show, and you had the exploding barbed wire death match, which was like a really good match, and people have concluded it's the best exploding barbed wire death match that there has been.
So it paid off for him then.
Unfortunately, after the match, it changed everything.
Why did somebody lose an eye?
No, nothing happened. Well, the thing is, nothing happened. That's the problem. So the match was set up like you had this conceit that the match is going to go 30 minutes, and at the 30-minute mark, the whole ring would blow up, and whoever was left standing would be the winner. And so around the 25-minute mark, Kenny Omega has some goons come in and they beat the shit out of Jon Moxley, and then he pins him and he wins the match. Because it's like a death match, so there's no disqualification. So
Oh, okay.
so you can just have
Anything goes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Have 30 guys in the ring to hold someone down and pin him. You can do that. Okay. What if professional football had some like after at 10 minutes into overtime and no one's scoring, it's like anything goes. Like 52 guys on the field. Just crazy shit.
just becomes Mutant League football. Someone's putting mines on the field.
Oh no, that's in destruction, but there's no like personal fouls and
Yeah.
like brutal like Blade Runner style picking the guy up, smashing him over your knee, which actually would kill someone. But yeah,
So then, but then it was weird because then like the match is over, and then like the commentators start saying like, "We can't turn off this bomb," and they're like, "What?" And it's like that makes no sense. And so like the Kenny Omega and his goons further beat the shit out of John Moxley, essentially knock him unconscious or whatever, and handcuff him and leave him in the middle of the ring while there's this big booming. There's a timer on the screen. There's this big booming like burn, 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 and like the sirens start going off. It's like and people are evacuating the ring area, and then Eddie Kingston comes out. Who Eddie Kingston was feuding with John Moxley, the past couple of pay-per-views, but then like, and the kind of story with them is like they're former friends, and then like but like Eddie Kingston's kind of like turned his back on him. So now he comes out to. He's like trying to wake John Moxley up to get him out of the ring, and then he decides counters counting down. And he decides he's gonna sacrifice himself and cover him. And then as the timer goes down and the bomb goes off, and it's just like the four corners, it's just kind of like sparklers go off, and then there's like 3 little explosions, and that's it.
oh no.
And then Eddie Kingston had to sell like he had passed out, and then like the commentators were trying to sell it that like it was a big bomb, but it was obvious like it was a failure. It didn't go off.
Yeah,
because I thought there was gonna be some like weird rules, like it was some safety issue with the fire marshal, but apparently they said they've tested it multiple times and it looked impressive every time they tested it, and then when they went live with it, it was the first time it didn't work.
Oh, so something like failed in the device.
Yeah.
So you got like sparklers, and it was like, where's the mortar shells? They didn't go off.
So it was like, it was a pretty embarrassing moment for what was going to be like a really like that would have been awesome, but then just, you see some phone footage of people are there, and like if you're on a lower floor, like at floor level, like it looked almost impressive because the smoke was obscuring everything. But like where they had the camera shot, it was like clear that like nothing happened to these guys. Like nothing.
Yeah, they were like helicopter view. It's like, oh, it's not being obscured by anything. It's like, yeah, they're fine. Just pass out from sparklers. It's like that doesn't really. It's like throwing yourself on a hand grenade. It doesn't have the same oomph. So
then they had to walk it back, and they did have stuff in the TV episodes where like Kenny Omega was like building stuff that he's going to use against John Moxley, and then the narrative became is that like the bomb that Kenny Omega built the bomb, and then like it was a dud because he sucks at building bombs, and so that kind of became the narrative.
Oh, some fast writing in the huh?
And then for like why. And understandably, is why John Moxley was knocked out because he got the shit beaten out of him, and he went through a barbed wire death match. So he's covered in blood and everything. So that made sense. But it's like then they had to cover it like, well, why did Eddie Kingston suddenly pass out? And like he like gave this story about like how he had a panic attack and passed out when he was remembering like when he was like in jail one time. And Eddie Kingston just like he's a great talker, so like that guy literally cut a promo on a cookie and it was like captivating. So
that's why they make the big bucks.
So it ends up it was disappointing, but it was like overall it was a good pay-per-view, but that's kind of like all that people remember is that the dud of a bomb at the end. It's like, wow, that would have been amazing, but it didn't work.
It's the danger of live entertainment.
Yep.
I mean, it could have gone the other way. Like we just, the book by the Bret Hart. It's like, oh well, it could have easily gone bad. Anyone where everyone walks away intact is a good one.
Yeah. But like all the other matches were pretty good. There was only one I'd say like wasn't necessary, but it was like fairly quick. So it's like, all right, well they got it over with. They had a cinematic match with Sting and Darby Allin, which was pretty cool.
Okay.
It might have been directed by Darby Allin because like his whole thing is he wants to retire from he's a skater and he quit skating and got into wrestling because skating was harder on his body than wrestling was.
Could see that.
But he ultimately wants to be a filmmaker, so I think he directed it. So there's a lot of like cool stuff. Although it was kind of weird because it's like, you know, you're cutting to like a pre-edited thing, but like they had the commentary team talk over it as almost as if it was happening live, which doesn't make sense with like the kind of editing they had going on. So it just felt more like MST3K rather than like announcing. But yeah, they did a lot of neat stuff, and then like, you know, it allowed Sting to do stuff without like, you know, getting hurt really. So there's like one thing of like they're just like in some weird abandoned thing, and then where it's like open levels, like there's no stairs, so like people are just falling over the place, and there's just randomly a ring somewhere, and there's like this one thing where Darby Allin like jumped up on the ring, and the ring's like right next to a brick wall, and he like does like this Spider-Man walk up the wall, so he's like extra like 10 feet in the air and then jumps off and hits the guy with what's called the coffin drop, which basically he just jumps off of something and goes like this and falls with his back on them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a really light guy, but even like when you do that to somebody, or it's just your full body weight falling on somebody, like it'll still suck.
It's a lot of mass and motion, even if you weigh 150 pounds.
Yeah, force equals mass times acceleration. So
yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty neat. And then the women's match was pretty good. What else was that? The opener with the tag match, it was pretty good. There was a fun, the buy-in, which is like it's a match they throw on YouTube to kind of like it's like, hey, come watch the pay-per-view after this, and they had it was a women's match, and they had I think, was it a tag team match? Yeah, it had to have been a tag team. Yeah, it was a tag team match, and they had a surprise entrance come in, Maki Ito, who is a Japanese wrestler, and she had previously like wrestled like 2 days earlier in Japan, and so it was like a real surprise because they had like this women's tournament where there's one in Japan and there's one in America here, but it was like pre-taped ahead of time, so that like, you know, they could do the 2-week quarantine and bring the person that won the Japan side over here.
Okay.
So it was really surprising when she showed up because it's like, well, she didn't quarantine. She just like flew from Japan and hopped on the show, which is like, oh, is everything open now? It's like, I guess. Although if she flies back to Japan, then she'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Maki Ito is not a good wrestler, but she's very entertaining because like her whole thing is that she was in like she was in a pop group in Japan. Oh, they have a specific name to them. They're called idol groups. That's what they're called.
Okay.
And she got kicked out of the idol group. Like some people said because she got too old. Some people said because she was people didn't like her, and some people said it was because she was ugly. I don't know if any of it's true, but like she did get kicked out of the group and then like became a wrestler. So like her entrance is like she comes out singing and stuff like that. And so like she's not a good wrestler, but she's funny as hell. Like the first tweet she had, like they had the whole tournament that they're setting up, and it's like Maki Ito, and then like her first tweet, like towards all the people at AEW, it's like when it has her picture in like the AEW tournament, it just says, "Hello, motherfuckers."
Nice.
And, yeah, so she employs a lot of swearing, so that's how she knows English, is just purely through swear words.
Yeah, that's how most people learn it.
And then like her whole gimmick is that she has like a really hard head, and so like when people punch her head,
It's dangerous. It's a dangerous like hook.
well, she has this one move where she just like falls. She just like goes like this and falls over and hits the person with her head, and it's supposed to be devastating because how hard her head is. And, yeah, it allows her. She doesn't have to do like too much because, you know, she's still, like I said, not a great wrestler, and I don't know how far she's come, but apparently, you know, she did some stuff. Was like, yeah, that looked okay, but also I don't know, I'm not sure. They did a match on AEW Dynamite last week where she seemed to be completely lost. So I don't know if there's a language barrier there, or if just communication issues, or if everybody in that ring at the time just wasn't that great. But I don't know. She's entertaining, so it was a nice surprise.
Well, for a Japanese woman, she must be highly unusual, and because usually that's not like a role that a woman would play over there.
I don't know. It's like, I mean,
I'm sure they have others, but it's just, to me, that sounds like, oh, that's, I can understand men getting into that over there to a certain extent, but like women, it's like, they use a
Japanese
lot of singing and dancing over there, but
yeah, there's that too. But yeah, Japanese wrestling, women's wrestling is huge.
yeah,
but it's separate. It's segregated. So
Yeah.
it's a very specific thing. That like there's men's wrestling and there's women's wrestling, and there's rarely like companies that have like both. It's separated. It's either a company that does men's wrestling or a company that does women's wrestling, and they're kind of like they're different things. So there's serious women's wrestling in Japan, but there's also a lot of just like joke stuff and a lot of weird shit.
sexualized stuff.
Yeah. Because when I first knew about Maki Ito, I was watching a documentary on YouTube called The King's Road, or it's called Walking the King's Road, which is about All Japan Pro Wrestling in the early 90s. And because it's supposed to be like this really like, he was like one of the pinnacle of Japanese wrestling was during this time. And it was called the King's Road style at All Japan Pro Wrestling. And Jesus Christ, those guys are fucking crazy. There's one where like this guy like the move is he picks the guy up and like he's like holding him outward upside down and just drops him on his fucking head.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of head and neck stuff. Like this is that guy. This were there was called the Four Pillars, and one of the Four Pillars was Masawa. And Masawa is that guy I've been telling you about where he took a German suplex in the ring correctly and he died of internal decapitation because he had taken so many head and neck bumps for wrestling over the years that his spinal cord just snapped. That was the last bit.
It was the first time I ever heard the term internal decapitation, too. I've heard of external. It was classic decapitation.
Yeah, it's like, how can you be decapitated if his head's still attached? It's like, well, the spinal cord snapped. Which just seems weird. It's like, how'd that guy even get in the ring if it was like his spinal cord was about to snap? Like, I guess that's just pure will.
Yeah. It's just honor.
And then there was then it became like a thing. It was like recommended, and there was one with Yuka Sakazaki, which I know her from AEW, and it was a thing about between her and Maki Ito, and so that's where I learned about Maki Ito and her whole story. And it's actually this weirdly captivating story where like Maki Ito is just wrestling because she wants attention and she's a bad wrestler, but like the story is that she's a bad wrestler, and then like she kind of like over time gets better and actually becomes a competitive person, and like she had a tag team partner. It's like, oh, this is weirdly compelling. But there's like the start of her career, there's like these weird things where it just seems like a basement. They set up like a mat, just like a square mat, like maybe not even a wrestling mat, like maybe an inch of foam, and then just like chairs around it, like no space. It's just chairs around a mat. So there's no fucking ring, and it seems like old guys in the front row, and it seems like what it's supposed to do is like, oh, these young ladies fell on me. Like that seems to be the point of the thing. Is like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And it's women putting on a wrestling match, and it's like, okay. It's like, this is what the mid manager, like, this is his. He can't afford the eyes wide shut thing, but this is his eyes wide shut.
Yeah.
It's just accidentally groping women in a basement during a wrestling match.
Yeah, it's the poor man's version of cult ritual sex.
But yeah, so she's entertaining. We'll see what they do with her. The other surprise was Christian Cage, who you won't know and I barely know, so it wasn't that much. But they made it a big surprise. So everyone's like, "Is it going to be CM Punk? Is it going to be Batista? Is it going to be Brock Lesnar?" And it was Christian Cage, who, as far as I know, is a really good worker and like a lot of people respect him. He kind of seems like one of those people is like he's a wrestler's wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Which means like you show an average person's match and you're like, I don't get it, but you show a wrestler's match, it's like, this is amazing. What was the other surprise? Oh yeah, and then All Ego Ethan Page is now in AEW wrestling.
Oh, okay.
You won't know who he is either, but I just like that. I like his name, All Ego Ethan Page.
That's a good one. That just establishes right up front what you're dealing with. Mr. Ambiguous. Like, no one likes that. Mr. Kindheart. No.
Yeah. So yeah, it was an enjoyable pay-per-view that just had a horrible letdown at the end. So. It's weird because I was thinking about like better that the weird thing happened at the end than rather it happened in the middle or the beginning somewhere, and then there's the whole show feeling weird. But then also people are like, that's the last thing you see, so then like you just kind of like unintentionally are disappointed in the whole thing just because that's the last thing you saw.
Oh.
I don't know, but I remember like the last Double or Nothing pay-per-view where like the one guy got a concussion and they let him keep wrestling. Like that one was like hard to watch. It's like, I don't want to watch the rest of this, but like this is like, well, it was a dead at the end. So
Yeah, again, anything anyone walks away from without permanent injury, it's kind of silly, but like nobody was wrestling while listing 20 degrees to port for no apparent reason other than the fact that his brain had bounced off his skull, which is not fun to see. Yeah.
and then
You feel like you got your money's worth?
oh yeah, I mean, I guess
That's all that matters.
Yeah. You know, I have it forever, so or as long as BR Live exists.
Yeah.
But like I said, they only have 4 pay-per-views a year, so it's like it's not that much of a expense.
Yeah.
Although technically, it's cheaper to get the WWE Network and watch all their pay-per-views, which is like 12 to 14, than it would be to buy all those. But and yeah, it looks like the migration over from the network to the Peacock is going to be a pure shit show.
Okay, good. Much to everyone's surprise.
Because it looks like all, because I was telling you about the stuff where like there's a lot of like flag data or metadata to like all the WWE shows where like you can go to matches, you can go to like the beginning or the end of the match, and like all that. So all that metadata is just gone. It doesn't work with the Peacock system.
That's good. That's going to make it.
They're not bringing over the entire library either because they can't, because it's too big. So they're just going to have like all the recent pay-per-views and like and so it's going to be a trial run with the next pay-per-view, which is like at the end of the month with Fastlane, and then in April that's WrestleMania, so that's when they can't fuck it up.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Which is probably why they sold it just before WrestleMania, so they can fuck up the next pay-per-view, but they can't fuck up WrestleMania. Which is, as far as I know, is going to be in a stadium with maybe 30,000 people.
Okay. Well, it depends on who gets their shots and where things are going.
Oh, it's I mean, they're doing it in the same place that they did the Super Bowl this year, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Buccaneers Stadium.
Yeah, Raymond James Stadium.
Okay.
Which I didn't know. Like I saw like clips of the Super Bowl. I was like, dude, did they just like fill a stadium with people? That seems irresponsible. But I guess they had a lot of cardboard cutouts like between people, which I didn't even notice because I didn't watch the game. I just saw clips of it. So.
Yeah, what could you pay? Because I know the Lions, like if you paid $30, they would put a cardboard cutout of you in the stands. Because like the Lions did that, where they do the panning camera shots of the kickoff, punt return, things like that. It's like, oh, it briefly looks like a stadium full of people, but no, it's like a bunch of cardboard cutouts and a few people interspersed.
Yeah, I remember like when during baseball they did that too, where you could get your likeness put in the stands, and like if like a home run or a foul ball hit your likeness, they'd mail the ball to you.
Yeah, I had to do something. It was fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's better than one hitting you in real life.
Yeah. I mean, presumably you'd have the opportunity to catch it, but
Yeah,
but yeah, I think Florida now is just completely open. So
yeah. Was it Florida, Texas, and
technically Iowa, like our governor just said, like, fuck it, everything's open. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
yeah, we're not doing that here. Well, here, what did they say? Next month, anyone can get a shot that wants one.
Okay.
You just got to sign up. Bunch of the guys at work got the all the people that are still smoking, they could list themselves as smokers, and they apply, and they got the one shot because they have a lot of the one shot here. I'm like, well, wait, you're my age. How'd you get on the list? Oh, it's like, because I smoke. It's like, oh, fuck, why did I quit smoking? Could have got the shot, but that's okay. Like I said, I don't go anywhere anyway, so.
Well, the F1's been testing in Bahrain, and the Bahrainian government's been offering the F1 drivers the vaccine. So some of them have been taking that.
The Russian one, Sputnik.
I don't know where they're getting it.
Well, the Russians have been. There's been a lot of. See, the Russians invented. They have a vaccine too. I don't know anything. I've heard it's just as effective as all of them, but they've been doing a lot of, like, of course, online shit where they're trying to say like the other vaccines are inferior and don't take them, and they have weird side effects, and everyone's like, oh, it's just the Russians being the Russians. It's like, oh no, they have a financial incentive because they spend a lot of money developing their vaccine, and they want other countries to buy it. They know they're never going to get deep into the American or European markets, but they can get everywhere else in the world. And it's like, oh, so they're using shady manipulation for, just direct money payments, I see.
Well, Bahrain's just kind of like that, around that Saudi Arabia peninsula, so I think they just like have the money to get whatever they want. So
yeah, those Gulf oil states have trillions of dollars. They can do anything they want. They got about another 20 years of that.
But yeah, so yeah, Sergio Perez got his vaccine, even though he already got COVID-19. So
yeah,
here
they tell people. Here they tell people if you had it, get your vaccine anyway. Yeah, there's people.
Well, yeah, especially with like especially with the new mutations out there. So
yeah. Yeah, we have that here, and that was on our county thing. It's like, oh, we have the English variant here, and then it gave a whole history of like how I was like, how did we get the English variant here? Well, someone got off a plane at Metro Airport from England and had it. Oh, we're doing that again. Okay, well it's like, how did the English variant get here? Well, someone got off a plane from fucking England. It's like, I didn't think we were doing that. Okay.
I was waiting for an American variant to show up. This would be the strongest, most deadly version of COVID-19.
The fattest version. It's just like you got the regular size, like the European Corona ball with all the spikes on it, and then you got like the bulging American version. A bunch of guns and spikes. It's like the American variant shoots the virus. But no. Well, Italy's going back into lockdown, so that's encouraging. It's going to go on for another fucking 3 years. I mean, no, it's not. But because people are just to the point now, it's like, we can't do this anymore. We can just keep coming out with new. We're going to be so full of vaccines that we're just never going to get anything again.
But so yeah, F1's been testing in Bahrain. They usually do it in Spain, but and like usually the season starts. Usually they start with testing in Spain, and the season usually starts in Australia as the first race. But like they're because of COVID, they're moving Australia near the end of the season, and then they're starting in Bahrain. So
Yeah.
just because it's just available and the government's more willing. And then yeah, a lot of so yeah, we got to see some of the cars out there. A lot of weird new shit on the cars. It's subtle. You wouldn't really know the difference unless you're looking for it. It's like there's like a bunch of shit like on the like I've been talking about like how the barge boards on the near the back of the car like they can't do like the weird like scoops and fins anymore. But now they
Yeah.
have the thing where like they're just taking like the edge of it and they're like crimping it into like a wave shape.
Yeah. I've seen that when I was looking at mock-ups and stuff.
And then there's something where like the diffuser, there's like some like fin that comes down from the diffuser that's supposed to it's supposed to have a height limit, so it can only be so far off the ground. So like it used to be lower, but now they have to be higher. But then like McLaren like built their gearbox like extra bulky just to pretend like, oh, that's the gearbox. It has to be that close to the ground.
Yep.
So yeah, a lot of fun stuff there. It's hard. Like the first day, there was a sandstorm, so you can kind of throw all that data out. But the Red Bulls looked to be pretty fast. Like Max Verstappen drove the first lap, or the fastest lap through testing. He did like 139 laps, so it seems good for them. And now so they used to be sponsored by Aston Martin, and like on the wing there was the Aston Martin wings logo, but now they can't do that. So now it's just a big Honda logo on there, or just it's just the word Honda on there. And the car almost looks like a toy because of it, but it still looks cool. It's just kind of weird now that there's an Aston Martin team itself.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I don't know. They didn't seem to like last year. Racing Point really impressed because they basically just copied the previous year's Mercedes. Like, wow, that car is really fucking fast.
Yeah.
But I haven't really heard any like. It didn't seem like the Aston Martin was blowing anybody away. The Alpine car was really good, and Fernando Alonso seems to be like, for having been out of F1 for 2 years, seems to be right back in competitive shape, even with a broken jaw. So.
Okay.
Because he was out cycling in Switzerland and got hit by a car and broke his jaw.
That's an amazingly smart thing to do.
And somebody said he still has to get surgery for it. But like when I've seen interviews he's done and he's like talking, he seems fine. But I guess his jaw's still fucked up somehow. But
Oh, yeah. There's a guy I know fell down the stairs and his jaw detached from one side, and he didn't know it. He just thought it was sore.
huh.
And he would try to chew or whatever, and then when he put force down on it, it's like he said, like, half my palate would push away, and I was like, what happened? He goes, oh, it was fucking detached. I said, oh, that's just nightmare for me. I had to go in and surgically reattach it. And, yeah, and it was just from a fall downstairs, and not even a lot of stairs, like going out your back porch or something, not like tumbling down 3 stairs or anything.
That probably could be what's going on there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so people have been making fun of the Alpine car. People like how it looks because it's like it has a very shiny finish to it. So like the car looks cool in the sun. But like their like inlet scoop, the one that's just behind the driver, like above their head, like they have the biggest scoop out of any car out there, and it just looks ridiculous compared to other cars.
Huh.
But it seems to be very fast. So, Mercedes, they haven't seemed that impressive. But like always the thing with Mercedes is like you don't know if they're just like being coy. Like, we know what our car can do, so we're just gonna kind of go out here and test other things.
Yeah, we're just gonna data mine for like not what you're thinking we're looking for.
The McLarens look good. They seem to be very fast. They got that Mercedes engine. Both drivers look really good. I mean, like it's hard to say with testing, like if any of this means anything. But this is our first look at the cars, so. And then like everybody's copying from each other. Like it was like you saw the Red Bulls out there the first day, and then the next day it looked like they just glued a bunch of shit onto their car because they looked at other cars. It's like, let's try that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, what was up? But I don't know. But yeah, next week is the first race. It'll be in Bahrain. Haas's, you know, they don't look too great, so they're probably
Yeah.
gonna be the worst car. I don't know how the Williams are because they just got their new ownership, but it was hard to tell like how well or bad they were doing. But I hope they can do better than Haas.
Yeah.
The AlphaTauris look good, but they're probably still not going to be faster than they're probably good. They're probably going to be a good midfield team, but what else? One other team. What are the other teams? Yeah, so yeah, Mercedes is still like I don't know. Red Bull looked good for what they showed. McLaren looked good. Alpine looked good. The problem with like those Renault engines is like, yeah, they're fast, but they're not reliable worth of shit. So
Yeah.
that's always kind of the problem with those. Aston Martin don't know. AlphaTauri looked good for its team, but it's still hard to tell like whether that'll translate to them being competitive or if they're just going to be kind of like a midfield team. Yeah, Haas doesn't look competitive. Williams, like, no idea. What's the other team? Alfa Romeo, they kind of like they're just there. And Ferrari also doesn't look that great. They look better than last year, but they still don't look great. So that's a team I was missing. Ferrari, one of the most prestigious teams in F1, and still can't figure it out. But yeah.
See, I always think of F1 now at work when I see the Haas guys come in.
Yeah.
Because the guys from Haas come in, they work in our some part of the plant that does a lot of CNC work on the dies and stuff, but they have these big jackets that say Haas on them. It's like Haas Automation or something. It's like, oh yeah, these guys sponsor a Formula One team.
Yeah, they're very successful in NASCAR, just not in F1.
Yeah.
And and they're very successful at making CNC machines. So
Yeah, that's what they do. It's because they have a van. It all has that same logo on it.
yeah.
Because their employees all get these cool jackets that look like race car jackets that they wear to work, or they're like uniforms, like
Yeah.
one-piece suits, and they say Haas Automation all over them. It's like, oh, and then they have Haas Motorsports sometimes.
Yeah, like all the F1 like clothing stuff like looks impeccable. It's like, God, that looks nice. And then you go to the store. It's like, how much does that cost? Like, oh, never mind. $70 for a T-shirt. Fuck you.
Yeah. I'm going back to NFL shop. This is
I think the Austin Martin jacket. They have like this really cool jacket, and I believe it's literally $700
that sounds reasonable.
for like a windbreaker.
Yeah. We're not talking about a sheepskin from some New Zealand special. No, it's just a spring jacket. Yeah.
I don't know, some of that stuff's nice. Like some of that shit's like, Jesus Christ, this is expensive, but then it's like specially made in Italy, and it's like, well, it's quality. It's still overpriced.
Well, it's like this week at work, we got surprise jackets handout. That just all it says is like the plant and the two guys that run the plant, their name on it, and then it has a big, huge like UAW logo on the back of it. And they give those out like once. I thought they were going to stop, but usually every 2 or 3 years. But I was thinking like, oh, I still have some of the first stuff I got when I started working at Ford, like almost 24 years ago now. And it's like, I still have all those clothes. I mean, a lot of them don't fit me, and other people wear them now. But it's like, yeah, I washed those and wore those for like a decade, and they look fine. So I don't know what they spend on that stuff, but yeah, some of it, and they can only get that stuff. Like, there's people on eBay that collect that. Like, oh, I want the GM powertrain jacket that they gave out at this plant at that time. It's like $400 because no one else can get them. But yeah, I'm always amazed at how well that stuff wears. Like, I don't know where they got this. It's all made in America because it has to be, which I don't know how they do that, but they do it somehow. And it's like, oh yeah, this stuff lasts forever.
I don't know, there's like a lot of stuff in the South, because that's basically where they have all the cotton. There are some like boutique, like shirt shops there that do good stuff, because that's just like where all the stuff is. Like they can go acquire it cheaply and then put people behind it to make it well.
Yeah.
But like, you know, those are few and far between, because you make more money just exploiting people and sending it off to China.
Yeah. Real money is not in the $700 shirts. Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
American Apparel, which I'm not even sure if it's still around, but like all their stuff was made in the U.S. But
Yeah, they're still around.
okay.
I used to buy jeans from this one company that they quit making them in my size, but they were made in America. And it was real denim from South Carolina. It was like it was like, oh, you can make fire hoses or jeans out of this. Like, this is really tough stuff. And I still have a few pairs because they have like they did something in the crotch where it doesn't just vector up and it's stitched together. It like has a section cut out and something put in, so your legs actually like can move more freely.
Huh.
Like, it's better than Levi's. They're $98 a pair, which is not bad. But for no-name jeans, it's like, but they were, you know, I had a pair of them, like the color didn't fade or anything. It's like a lot of my clothes, I outgrew them. But those, you just couldn't find them anymore in my size. They quit making them in my size. But yeah, like all the belts, loops, like slanted as they went around, which is because they started off in the front at a slant and then they got straighter as they went around, because that's because you bend at the waist more in the front than the back. I mean, there was really well thought out.
Huh.
And it had very deep pockets with like the lining of the pockets was made out of the same denim material that jeans. It was like a one solid piece of denim. They didn't put like a cotton sack in there that just wore out. But I think those were called diamond blue jeans or something. But
Huh.
they were made somewhere in the South. But that's when I was really in my Buy American phase, when I would actually look for stuff, and then some of those companies don't exist anymore. It's like, well, that sucks. But I used to like only buy the cars that were made in America, and it's like, well, I can't afford any of those anymore. So, well, I'm not willing to afford.
And now like half of it's not even made in America anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, most of your pickup trucks. If you buy any kind of truck.
Oh,
thing,
car. I thought you said Carhartt.
no cars.
Okay.
No, I used to only buy the American-made cars that were made here by UAW people, but then it's like, well, they priced me out. It's like, I don't need a Raptor. I'm not going to pay for one. How much for the little economy car? Oh, that's made in Spain or something. It's like, I know it sucks, but it's what I'm willing to pay for.
Did you see that Demolition Ranch where he shot his truck with a 50 BMG and gave it away?
Oh, it ricocheted and hit his truck.
No, he was selling a T-shirt, and they were giving a bunch of the money or all the proceeds to a charity. And if they reached certain goals, he'd do certain things. And they reached like a $7,000 goal, and he promised he would shoot his truck with a 50 BMG. So he shot like the tailgate, or not the tailgate, but like the back of the car. So he wanted to shoot. He's like, he shot it basically like straight through the bed. He was trying to avoid anything that would have like electrical or anything in there. I was like, I don't want to destroy my truck. I just want to put a hole through it. And then like it was some guy who's like he's like a friend of the channel. Like another bet was like if they got to like 10,000, then he'd give him his truck. And so it's like, I don't know how he comes ahead away from that, but he agreed to it. So they got to that goal and giving that guy his truck with the hole in it. But it's an F-150 Raptor, so.
Yeah, those are nice trucks. If you can afford them.
Yeah, well, yeah, he can, so.
Yeah, he's a doctor and a YouTube gun guy.
And his father is wealthy, so.
Oh, well, that's nice. Or no, he's not a doctor. He's
a veterinarian, so.
Yeah, so he could do like field surgery on people if he had to.
He can get you some horse tranquilizers.
Yeah. That was the famous mix of pills on, was it C-Lab 2021? What'd you give her? Vicodin, baby aspirin, and horse tranquilizer. She was acting, that's when she was like becoming a whore for communism. She'd sleep with anyone who became, you know, those weird storylines on that show. And yeah. Yeah, I know some guys at work that have those Raptors, and it's like, that's great. Pass everything but a gas station.
Like, yeah, like, he also has a Hummer that like he has to keep repairing, because it's hard to come by parts to repair the Hummer,
Yeah.
because those aren't necessarily like off the shelf parts. You can just get them.
No, no, the whole special parts matrix in that world.
And he's got his Chromino, which is his El Camino that's made completely out of chrome, which I'm not even sure that works. It's one of on his other channels, which he's got like 3 channels, but I only just watched the couple of Demolition Ranch videos. Yeah, he's got the Raptor, and he's got a bunch of, and they're building a mansion. There was a mansion in Texas somewhere, just out there where he lives in the middle of Texas, and apparently someone abandoned it, and so they just like bought the property and like have completed the building the mansion. Now they're gonna live there.
Yep. What's the guy on Kentucky Ballistics doing this week? Oh, he had that 9mm Gatling gun,
Oh yeah.
and he was firing it at the Lexon anti-bullet police shield, which actually held up pretty well for being saturated with hundreds of rounds of 9mm in the same spot too. It's like eventually they started going through, but
That's like the crank Gatling gun, right?
yeah, crank style, which you can buy.
Yeah.
They're made in Indiana. I mean, they're expensive, but
All brass. No, I don't know. Don't know what they're made of.
I'm not sure. This is just, it's just kind of cool. Those are just the old crank handle Gatling guns.
Yeah, no, they've had on Demolition Ranch before. They mounted it in one of his beater vans and do drive-bys with it.
You can fuck somebody up. That's pretty slow rate of fire, but yeah,
Yeah.
you would want to be in front of it.
You still saturate an area with 9mm bullets, so.
Yeah, which are very fast bullets. I can't think of anything else I saw on. I saw Ian was taking apart an antique Russian anti-aircraft gun. It's basically a Dashika from the 40s. I love those, like, just solid blocks of steel the Soviets made their big guns out of.
Yeah, man. I forget what, like, one of his I saw recently where it was, like, it was really neat. I think it was just something, like, one of those weird, like, Spanish guns where it's like, well, there's only 4 of these that ever got made, and then the company disbanded, but there was, like, a lot of good ideas behind the gun. It was just made poorly.
The guns with, like, 2 moving parts and shit.
Like one of those, like, when they start taking it apart, it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, fixed barrel, yeah. Straight blowback.
Yep,
Nobody can make those.
Nobody's ever made those. This handgun fires from the open breech. Wow, weird. Really? That was a good idea. Yeah, there's some strange concepts out there that he finds and other people find for handguns. So it's like a lot of like German and Austrian gun makers and stuff that like just make $10,000 handguns out of exotic metals. It's like, who's this for? You know, it's just.
Or somebody's just like, I got this patent, and they make some weird shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why'd you make that? It's like, I had the patent, got in the market, didn't owe anybody money for a patent, so.
Yep, just bought a bunch of CNC machines and got a lot of guys laid off. Because, you know, someone didn't want to buy this.
Oh, yeah, now I watched the In Range where, like, Carl did, like, his 3rd video on that, volley fire. I think it's called the Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a 22 revolver that fires 2 22 bullets at the same time.
Okay.
I think it's like $200, so it's not that expensive, and like, but he did a bunch of tests on it, and it's like, well, this is terrible. And he was like, he'd like stand like 3 feet from the target and like miss. Like, that's how fucking terrible this thing was. And like, he kept sending in like things to try to get like service from, and it was Standard Manufacturing. That's like the most generic fucking name.
Yeah.
Well, because they do make I heard they used to make good Colt style revolvers, and they make that weird double barrel pump action shotgun where like it feeds from the rear. They make that thing. But then he just completely was like, yeah, this company's full of shit. Don't buy their stuff. And he like just threw the gun in the middle of Arizona somewhere and walked away. I mean, he probably picked it up afterwards because that'd be neglectful. It's just
Kid find it. Tries to shoot his friends. Doesn't work. Misses him.
all the other kids with the pumps. So yeah, I hadn't watched In Range in a while. Like, my YouTube feed has been weird because it's just like stopped suggesting things to me, and then like I'd have to like go to each individual channel. It's like, oh, they got like 8 videos. I thought they just haven't put something out for a while, and it's like, just
No, there's some game being played.
well. Also, I have like 80 channels I'm subscribed to right now, and it probably just doesn't know what the fuck to do because there's a bunch of them where it's just like I haven't been to the channel in a while, so it just stops suggesting things, and so if it just like to me it feels like I guess they stopped YouTubing. It's like no, I haven't been there in a while. So
I got sucked down the barrel stove wormhole on YouTube recently. Because I'll get into something weird, like I'll see someone suggested. I'm just sitting here like building a model or something. Like, oh, let's see all the videos we can see on this. And there's like a barrel drum, which is a kit you buy. You get a 55-gallon drum, and you just saw out a hole in the front of it, and it comes with like a stove door and some feet. And it's all made out of cast iron, and it kind of looks cool. You put stove bricks in the bottom of it so it doesn't just burn through the bottom of it in a year, and then you get into the crazy stuff like the double barrel stoves, or it's like a double barrel kit, and the top becomes it's a giant drum that captures all the smoke and stuff and the heat, and then that radiates out through the room, and it's like, oh, then you put muffler pipes through that and a fan on the back, so the smoke is all enclosed in the drum, but you got hollow pipes running through it, like 8, 16, whatever. These guys are all huge welding guys, and then you put a fan behind it, and it sucks all the that fan blows all the heat that goes up into that second stage out into the shop. And this guy's shop got up to like 90 degrees in a very like an hour with burning wood. And then the guys go super crazy because they'll build an inlet on the front that they run the pipe outside, and they have a little switch valve on it, and that inlet is how you feed, because you damp it through the chimney, and then you can have like the holes on the front you open or close. Well, these guys, they'll run a pipe and bring air in from the outside. It's like, so you don't want to reheat heated air. To be really efficient, you reheat the air you're sucking in from the outside through the flue action. And it's like, oh, everyone has all this. I mean, they're just making these like barrel stoves into these $500 contraptions with fans and muffler pipe and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, this is an odyssey. It makes me want to live in the country. When I see stuff like that, it's like, man, I wish I had a place in the country, a pole barn and some welding equipment. I too could, figure out an elaborate way to burn down my pole barn.
Yeah, there's one of the Action Boys guys. He also has a side podcast called Dumbbells, where it's about fitness and stuff. Because he's on top of being a comedian and an actor, he makes most of his money being a fitness trainer. I think his most public or most popular client he talks about is he used to train Louis Gossett Jr.
Okay.
Like
That's
when I'm not even sure if he's still alive, but he like trained him when he was like in his 80s. Actually, I'm not sure how old Louis Gossett Jr. is.
I don't know. You talk. I'll look it up.
But no, so like he had to. So they always had on Action Boys. They always have a joke where they talk about like, I heard this in the sauna, because it's like because it's their joke about like IMDb trivia, where it's like it's like half of it's not helpful and it's just a bunch of bullshit, and it might as well be just like some foreign guys talking in the sauna about a movie. So that's when they refer to trivia about a movie. It's like they always start a sentence with like, I heard in the sauna. But also, these guys are also sauna guys. Like they use the sauna, and so this guy went so far as he got his own home sauna, and it's basically just a giant barrel, like literally a wooden casket barrel. It's kind of like churned on its side, because it's easier to heat that way. Because like a sauna that's like in a gym, it's a square, it's a square box, but the heating would be inefficient for the square. But if you get like a barrel, then all your heating is done very efficiently.
Huh.
And he had to order it. Like the wood comes from Canada, and he had to like assemble it himself. And then like then he gets into like, well, why do you? And I think he said it gets up to 200 degrees. Like that's where he keeps it at to sit in the sauna for like, I think he does it for like an hour or something like that. Because there's a bunch of stuff on it. I guess Joe Rogan talks about too, because they make fun of him for it. But there are studies that were done in Norway, because I guess saunas are really big in Norway, or that maybe that's where they originated. And then there's one that Harvard's doing too, because one of the great phrases to like the positive properties of using a sauna, like I think it's like 3 times a week for an hour, is called all mortal benefits.
Okay.
So whatever it is that might kill you, doing a sauna for an hour 3 times a week will help stave that off. Anything that you do or anything that might kill you, that's somehow, and it's stuff about like heat shock proteins and stuff like that.
As proven by the fact that the Scandinavians live forever. Oh, by the way, Louis Gossett Jr. is 84.
Okay,
Still
alive. Okay,
still making movies.
huh? It's but it's like it's not like you're gonna live forever. It's just like it's gonna help.
You might not
things.
die of cancer. Yeah,
I mean, like it's one of the whole bro science about it is like, well, why does it do that? And it's like that's where things get murky. It's like, so like the thing they theorize is that, think of the caveman days, like you might be in some you might not have shelter to keep you out of like some unbearable heat and or unbearable cold. And so when you're exposed to those extreme temperatures, your body creates proteins. In this case, they call them heat shock proteins, but you can also get heat shock proteins from extreme cold. And then those have overall benefits to your health. So it's like, because we live, we live in a sheltered society. So because like, you have shelter and place to sleep, you never naturally engage those proteins in your body, so you don't get the benefit from them.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's the theory anyways, but I mean, there's legitimate science behind it, but whenever you involve something with health and fitness, there's a lot of just bro bullshit in there. So,
Yeah, it's fun. We watched a movie this week.
yes.
We watched Robert Zemeckis' 1980 dark comedy Used Cars.
Is as far as I know, his first film. He might have done something like for TV before this, but I'm not sure. But this is his first theatrical movie.
Yeah, this was his first, big or studio picture. It's a movie from 1980. It looks like it was made in the early 70s.
Yeah, I wish.
Kind of was.
Well, it was probably made in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Although this is 1980, so didn't The Thing come out also in 1980, or was that like 81?
I thought it was 81 or 82.
Okay. This
Yeah,
is
one
good.
thing I took away from this is like, God damn, Kurt Russell's a versatile actor.
Yeah.
Like this guy's gonna be doing Escape from New York pretty soon.
Well, remember he was a Disney kid actor, so he was like,
Yeah.
he was like one of those studio system actors. Because like, I always hear stuff when people talk about Kurt Russell. It's like some people like think differently about his acting ability and stuff that, but like during the production, like everybody says what a professional he is because he has literally decades of experience acting.
Yeah. He's so good at his job. It's like, yeah, he's been doing it since he's 10. It's like 60 years experience. But it did strike me. It's like, because I like Kurt Russell as an actor, but I always associate him with like the strongest John Carpenter films and
Yeah.
stuff. That's my Kurt Russell. When you see him in a movie like this,
I don't know, like when did Overboard come out? That had to be after this, right?
I think so, yeah.
But
But this is and this is weird. Like Spielberg produced this, and John Milius, the infamous screenwriter for. Did he write the script for Conan the Barbarian? Was that his?
yes. Yeah, that crazy right wing guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very intense guy.
Yeah, he also wrote like all the good lines, or either wrote it or he just wrote like the famous lines from Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Because that's like all the stuff about the gun. That's straight from John Milius, because like he's a gun guy. So.
Oh yeah. Who's the? Was it Oliver Stone's biography talked about a lot about John Milius?
Yeah.
All right. I remember like I learned a lot about him, and then I did something like went down some YouTube rabbit hole about his whole career, which is fascinating. It's funny
Yeah,
that
because they're because like John Milius has like a claymore in his office, and it says like front towards enemy, and like when Oliver Stone was in his office, like, oh yeah, I remember those, and like he was impressed because like John Milius never actually has used a claymore. He just knows of them, and like, yeah, that's cool. And like Oliver Stone's like, yeah, we use those to sheer up perimeter defense.
and so he's all in on Oliver Stone. Then
Yeah.
This guy actually killed people. I love him.
I don't care if you're a left-wing hippie bullshit guy. You killed people. You killed Asian people.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I'm sure there's either a biography or some story, some book out there about John Milius that we need to read sometime.
Yeah, he sounds like an interesting guy. He's just one of the weirdos.
I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, like his politics aside, I think he could like, he's produced some good stuff, even though he is a fucking lunatic. But also, it's Hollywood. Everyone's a lunatic, and he's just like one of the right wing ones.
Yeah, he's just a different variety. But yeah, this movie was an interesting watch. It's a kind of it was an attempt at a kind of comedy.
I mean, I'd say like along the lines of like a National Lampoon or possibly Caddyshack.
Yeah,
it's a lot more dark and adult than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, this movie was really adult. I mean, there was like nudity. Girls had their breasts grabbed in this movie, I think 300 times. You know, it'd be a constant running theme of grab a handful of boobs
and lots of swearing. But I wasn't expecting, because like the movie's kind of like upbeat. So like the swearing kind of like, because of how the movie looks, it kind of, where it kind of almost looks like a Disney movie or in some ways, that like the swearing just kind of caught me off guard. It's like, all right, it's a rated R movie. They can say whatever they want.
Yeah, because the one guy's always saying "motherfucker," and it's like it was really loud.
Yeah.
The guy who's always dressed in like the army uniforms that's falling asleep at the weirdest times.
But yeah, like I mean, really, what makes it dark is that the whole premise of the movie is like there's these two car, what do you call them?
Dealerships.
Car dealerships right
Yeah.
across from each other, and then they turn out to be brothers. And then apparently, like the more successful brother, there's going to be a highway built right through his dealership, but not his brother's. So he knows his brother has a bad heart, so he's trying to kill his brother so he can take over the dealership. So he can just build one big dealership and have the highway next to it, so he gets even more traffic through. It's just like, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I like Kurt Russell's. What's his character's name? Well, it's Rudy. He changes it for different people, but I think it's Rudy Russo's his real name. But he always changes it to the ethnicity of the people he's dealing with, trying to sell them used cars. But I like his plan to be a state senator, and his plan involves, it's like, well, yeah, you got to get enough money, and he's talking to his boss. I think what's his boss's name? Like Luke, one of the two brothers.
Yeah. The Fuchs brothers.
Yeah, Fuchs, Luke Fuchs, and Rory Fuchs, but anyway, but he's talking to his boss, who seems like a nice guy, not a real successful like car dealership guy, but a nice guy. And he's like, yeah, if I get enough money, I can basically buy this state Senate seat. And then when you get into and he just says it straight out, like with the graft and corruption, like, I don't know what it's worth. It's spelled out to me, but it's going to be a lot. This is going to pay off for us. And he says that in this real like upbeat tempo.
Yeah.
Talking about basically getting into politics to be a criminal, but it's like, yeah, it's like everything else, and that's the darkness of this movie. Like, oh, okay, because
also like the basically the older brother sends this crazy driver over to get him a car and then like to give him a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like the guy, and this guy is just some crazy like demolition driver. He's like chewing on a screw. It's like,
yeah,
that's a joke. This movie's just full of like, it's not necessarily like Kurt Russell's the most high profile person. Everybody else is just like early versions of character actors that you'll see in like every movie for the next 30 years. But like,
right, yes.
And so yeah, he has a heart attack and dies, and then Kurt Russell's like kind of like aware what's going on, that the brother's gonna like to swindle us away from him. So then they like basically they keep it a secret and bury him in a car in the back of the parking lot and just pretend that he's still alive. It's like, wow, that's pretty dark. And they're just like upbeat, and they'll be like, yeah, this just happens.
Yeah,
we're not gonna go to jail for this.
Yeah, and they're doing things like they're doing a lot of like TV. Like, we're going to break into the broadcast. Just stuff that would put you in prison for 30 years. Like, like stopping, Jimmy Carter's address to the nation or interrupting the signal so they can, run what is it?
Pirate ad for the used car lot. Where they have a bunch of nude women all the time.
Yeah, and they show it. The kids like watching the football game with their mom and dad in the TV room. They're like, "Look, tits!" It's yeah.
They show up at the car dealership and they're signing the paper on like one of the strippers' ass and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just
like,
crazy.
Well, wasn't expecting this out of this movie. And then a really impressive action sequence at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of like White Line Fever or Convoy or something, like that kind of car action movie from the 70s.
Because like I think this movie was pretty like a low budget movie, but like you get to that sequence, like they must have spent money on this. But apparently they put out a thing that said like $250 in your car in a movie. Mm-hmm. And so like those are just people with cars, and they hand them $250 and all right, we need you to do this, and that's how they got like 250 cars in the movie, or how many?
Yeah,
which that is impressive.
It's $8 million. Is what it cost. Which I don't know. This is an old movie, so that those figures are always wonky.
Yeah, it's like today's that'd be a $90 million movie. I don't know. But yeah, I never really heard of this movie before, but I thought it was pretty good. And like apparently why you don't hear about it is that they fucked up the release. Like apparently they didn't believe in it, even though apparently it got like the highest audience score in testing that any movie had ever done at Columbia.
Yeah.
But I forget all the political reasons why too. There's a bunch of trivia about like this movie being sabotaged that I don't know whether to believe or not, but a lot of it comes from the commentary, which I didn't know they had a DVD with commentary, but I'd probably be more interested in that because it is with Kurt Russell and Robert Zemeckis that do the commentary on it.
Yeah, that would be interesting to hear what they said about this. I mean, they tried to make it into a TV show also, like 4 years later. It's just called Used Cars, but it's just listed as a fact. You don't have any information about it, so it was either terrible or it was just never, they did a lot of weird things in the 80s like that.
It was millions of pilots that don't get picked up, so
yeah.
Yeah, there's necessarily like a ton in this movie where it's like, yeah, this is a Robert Zemeckis movie, but yeah, I don't know, but it was also it was like, you know, it's him starting his career with like this weird dark comedy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm
Well,
looking.
there was a lot of political subversion in this movie too. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, just there was the obvious stuff on the surface, but interrupting Carter's address to the nation to shoot inflation dead. That was what right on the nose with what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
Because that was a wonderful American economic era called stagflation, where everything was stagnant, but prices were going through the roof. But that had to do with the oil problems at that time too.
But I don't know. I guess I'm just like trying to. I guess the only thing I can compare most of his movies, like, is this some way like Back to the Future? Like, I don't know. Because if you look at his filmography, he does a lot of wide variety of movies. But like, there's that middle period there where it's like he's kind of pushing the edge of the technology that's available at the time. And here he's just trying to survive and make a movie. So it's not necessarily he's not being a special effects expert yet. So.
Yeah, this was like a proof of concept thing. I think it's like, look, I can make a movie.
Yeah.
This never got released overseas. I know that.
Yeah.
No one overseas knew about this movie until I think it came out on VHS. And
apparently, like, it didn't get released in half of America. That was one of the trivia points. And
I didn't know about that one. Okay.
For I can't remember why. Just some weird distribution thing with the problem with the studio, and apparently that they also suggest that the name Used Cars was just a bad movie title. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go see Used Cars. And some people are suggesting it should have been called Trust Me, and just like use Kurt Russell as the poster.
Yeah. But then it would have been more of a, yeah.
But that just wanted to come off as some like, is this some political comedy? It's like, kind of at points.
Yeah, for like 10 minutes of the movie. When he's like, hey, I don't like all this corruption. It's like, wait, what? You signed up for this. You were buying the state Senate seat. No, I want to help my girlfriend, whose dad I buried and then did a weekend at Bernie's into a power junction.
Yeah.
Lit on fire and
died. The fact that like at the end of the movie they're like kind of together and then like really happy that they're gonna fuck over this old lady by lying about whether it was a taxi or not. It's like a really weird thing, but I guess it fits with the movie.
Yeah, well, it was a dark comedy, so
yeah.
It was always people doing weird things.
It's like, yeah, Kurt Russell's a scumbag, but he's our scumbag.
He's a working man scumbag. I like the cars in this movie. God, they had some memorable junk. Who wouldn't want to own a Buick Centurion convertible? It's like nobody knows about that anymore. Cars with 400 cubic inch V8 engines that made less horsepower than mine car or your car. And it's not just because of turbocharging, it's because they were terrible.
And those cars still weighed 1,000 pounds less than
our
cars.
Yeah, they still weighed. Yeah, those cars actually weighed a lot less than cars do nowadays. Well, I don't know if they weighed less. The way the weight was distributed was terrible. It was like if you went around a corner too fast, the back end would just slide from behind you in those cars. Whereas
I mean, they had steel frames and stuff like that, so they're bigger cars, but because like all the safety equipment in modern cars are just heavier.
Yeah.
Because like all the spaces are filled with shit, whereas like older cars, there's like a lot of open space in that giant boat you're driving.
Smuggle a lot of heroin into the car. Have you ever seen like a modern car get hit, like a real hard hit, like actually see it?
Yeah.
It's amazing, like fluids, electrical components, shit's just flying everywhere. Where old cars hit, it sounded like two pop cans being ran together. It's like, oh, wow, that's a lot of damage. And, of course, that guy got decapitated by his steering wheel.
Yeah.
because it was just just a metal rod welded together with hard plastic over it. Because that's a good idea.
Yeah, they built those cars tough to make the car survive and not the people inside
Yeah.
the car. Like that.
Yep.
I mean, that's why modern cars, like they explode the way they do, is because it's directing all the force around the driver and not through the driver.
Yeah, it's still weird to see.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, like I got into an argument with a person one time, like at work, just trying to like explain to them like modern safety devices because they were watching, I don't know, some like old car, like old, it's like the Spitfire 360 or whatever, and it's some old racing movie, and it's like, yeah, they don't build them like they used to. Like that car could do that. And it's like, yeah, that guy would die in a 30-mile-an-hour hit. Like,
Yeah.
modern cars like fly apart because they're keeping you alive, you idiot. It's not because they're built cheaper.
Well, it's like when that I remember that Ford versus Ferrari movie came out. Like there's plenty of replicas of those actual replicas of those race cars that you can drive, and people did, and they're like, "Oh my god, like, this is amazing!" And it's definitely something from another era. This thing has manual brakes. Like there's not hydraulic brakes in this car, and the engine is directly behind you. Like you start the car, I was like, I smell gas. It's like, yeah, it's all going on right now. And they would drive it, and they had professional race car drivers drive that Le Mans replica around the tracks, and they're like, I don't know how they kept this thing on the track. Do it because they just fly out and it was balanced for that, but the brakes were terrible. Like the brakes were just to stop for a pit stop essentially. Yeah, so it was funny to see like guys that successfully drive in modern race cars. Like, I want to try that. That looked inspiring from the movie, and they'd get in it like, oh wow, what is this?
That was an interesting thing. So Roman Grosjean is now an IndyCar.
Okay.
So he's been doing some blogs recently about like the difference between F1 cars and Indy cars, which is pretty interesting. So like, I did not know that Indy cars do not have power steering.
You don't need it.
Well, F1 cars do. So like when you watch like the an F1 car like take a corner, it's like this very smooth motion with the steering wheel, and you see him doing the same kind of turn in an Indy car. It's like he's like fighting the wheel the whole fucking time. I mean, he's keeping it on track, but yeah, it's like, yeah. But also because he still has like his burn scars from the fire, like he's still like, yeah, that didn't feel good. But then it's like, yeah, I gotta get my ass in the gym and work on my arms.
Gotta harden up those scarred areas so I can take being slammed around this cockpit.
What are the other interesting things? There's like a lever on each side of the driver's like by their leg, and they can change the like the softness or stiffness of the sway bar on both the front and the back.
That sounds like something that could get you in trouble.
Yeah. It's like the right side is for the front and the left side is for the back. But like, yeah, he was changing that stuff on the fly because he knew like, okay, at this turn, if I have the sway bar in this position, like I can take this turn pretty tightly.
Sounds like kart is a much more manual experience than Formula One.
He also, yeah, some stuff it like made it seem like kind of like low rent, but he actually liked it. But like, you know, like the F1 garages, they're just like this spectacular palace for each car. But he said like most of that's built that way for secrecy. Whereas at the IndyCar, because it's a spec series and basically everyone essentially has the same car except for engines, it's like, we don't give a shit if you look at our car. You look at your own car. So it's like, it's just like all out in the open. Like something like, you pull into this box area, and then a guy's coming over with some wrenches, like, all right, let's take the car apart. It's like, oh wow, this isn't like the whole like parade of putting a car away in F1 like it is here. It's like, man, we're just gonna work on the car, dude. Like, we're not here for all this theatrics.
Yeah, they don't have like matching like perfect white uniforms to work on the cars.
No.
Probably got a torpedo heater running in the background when it's cold.
What was the other? Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that made me like, maybe I should watch IndyCar. Like, this seems kind of interesting. I don't know when the season starts, but yeah, he was testing. I suppose he did. I think he did well. But also they have like a third driver for him because he doesn't want to race ovals because he thinks the ovals are too dangerous. So he's just gonna. And I think there's only 3 oval tracks they race in the year, and so so he's gonna do all the road courses, and then somebody else is gonna take a spot for the oval courses.
Yeah, well, it's understandable.
And apparently Haas was going to sponsor him for his Indy car, but after his wreck, there's like this weird quote from Gene Haas where he's like, "Yeah, I'm not like paying to watch this guy kill himself."
Is that really his fault, though?
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Yeah, I don't know. Like it was like it seems kind of an out of context quote because it seems like Gene Haas is like, "Yeah, fuck that guy," but it's not really meant to be taken that way.
Oh.
It'll be interesting to see how Grosjean does because like he was kind of in F1 he was kind of a laughing stock because whenever he made a mistake it became a very public mistake. It's like, can this guy drive worth of shit? And it's like, but I always found like if you look at a lot of this stuff where he fucked up, it's because it's the way he sees things, and so the way he interprets like how things are going to go wrong is like kind of different from everybody else. He can look at a situation and he can just see like how it's going to go bad, and then he like overcorrects himself in a way to try to avoid that thing, and then ends up crashing anyways. So
it's like, I'm not going to fail this way, but I will fail that.
Because there was several times like in last year where like he avoided a wreck, and then like if you listen to like his in-car radio, it's like, oh, he totally called that. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And like 8 cars ended up in a wreck. It's like, I told you fuckers this was going to happen. It's like, okay, he's a veteran driver. Which occasionally makes mistakes.
Oh.
But like it's weird, cautious mistakes. It's like he sees the accident about to happen. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to suddenly jerk my car over here. It's like, oh, there's already a car there.
I'm not going to hit this guy, but instead, that guy. What can you do? Well,
used cars.
Used cars. Check it out.
Yeah, it's surprisingly pleasant because like I said, never knew anything about it. It's like, kind of on the level of like a National Lampoon movie, dark comedy.
Yeah.
And I think it's on Pluto, so you can see it for free with ads.
Right. Or you can try to watch it on Amazon Prime and then have them decide that they don't like Safari anymore and then have to go start a different browser up. That's fun. So they got halfway through it and it said, error with, can't play back. I was like, what? I got to watch this. Come on. And it was like 8:30. I was like, I got to finish watching this movie, and I fucked around and went to their support, and it's basically like, it doesn't work with everything on Safari. It's like, okay, well, great. Then we'll just
maybe they updated something. Well, I've been getting a weird message where I buy the HD version and like I'll be on Chrome and it'll say like, this doesn't support high definition. It's like, what? All right, whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever. That's exactly it too. I'm getting to the point. It's like, whatever.
I mean, I still was able to watch the movie. I don't understand the warning, but.
Well, I bought this computer in 2012, so it's
probably... but if it's a browser issue, it's not really a computer issue. So.
No. Well, I've just noticed this thing's like really getting slow now. It's like I go clean things out of it, and it's like, oh no. But see, they don't have these, and you can't get these from Apple right now because of COVID. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, also processors. Although they started to make their own processors, so. But also.
Now, whenever I get one of these, I upgrade the RAM quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because I want them to be fast, and like if you want anything special, like no, you can just get the off the shelf stuff, and it's like, I'm not doing that. I want the upgraded RAM, and some other things I do just because I'm peculiar. But 2012 to 2021 is not a bad life for a computer, and it'll probably be here for 2 or 3 more years if I have my way. So, and considering I use the piss out of this thing, I'll put up with I'll just start using the Chrome browser for everything. Because that seems to
Or
work.
use Firefox.
Firefox doesn't work well with this iteration.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. I don't know why. I can't tell you. I'm not a computer guy, but I know a lot of things don't work with this since they went to the new OS. So
I always thought like Firefox was like kind of like the best secondary like Mac.
it
browser.
was.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was. And then they started dropping features, and I don't know. It was like, well, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. This doesn't. Like, okay, whatever.
There's also stuff with Firefox browsers that are like, less intrusive on your data if you care about such things. So.
I do. That's why. Well, I also when I'm really feeling like slow motion, it's like time to launch Tor. Here we go to the dark web. No, I don't go to the dark web. I'm not sophisticated enough to understand what's going on there.
I don't know. People refer to that and I don't even know what they mean. Is like, does it just mean like it's a website out there you can't Google search? It's just like you got to know the address.
Yeah, you gotta know the exact address. There used to. I used to go. I'm a weird information collector, and as long as it's just weird information about gruesome things that I'm interested in, that's cool. But some of these weird information websites became like aggregators for like, we have this and child porn. Like, okay, no, I'm done. Fuck you, whatever. Don't want to see that. I just want to know the facts, like the technical specs of something, or just the weird shit I like to look up.
Although the new weird thing it's more not necessarily nefarious. Well, it's nefarious in some way, but it's all like super corporate stuff. Have you heard of NFTs?
Yes.
Non-fungible
tokens.
Yeah. So it's sort of like Bitcoin, but now they're bringing over, and there's like, I forget, it's called like NBA like break something or whatever, and it's like essentially, so they're using the blockchain to create like images and videos with a false what do you call it, false where it's a limited amount of it.
Yeah, it's yeah. You can sell a GIF of yourself for like $5,000, but there's only like 100 of these things out there.
What do you call it? False scarcity. That's it. False scarcity.
Yeah, false scarcity. Yeah.
So like they and like you can see the implications of it, like where it's like it'll do this with music, where it's like, we're only going to sell 100,000 copies of this CD or this audio album, and it's like, and that's it. And then like, oh, we might release more. It's like, motherfucker, you can release as many of them as you want. You're just hiding it behind the blockchain.
Yeah, or it's like, this album only comes out on vinyl. The only way you can get it.
So yeah, there's been a various podcasts I've been hearing about that. It's like, oh, this seemed like the one place where it seemed like kind of interesting was there was artists who are doing like, like if you're doing like an oil painting, like that's literal scarcity. It's like, I painted this and that's the only copy, or maybe I did another one and you're selling it. But now, a lot of like, the canvas is digital now. So like you have a digital canvas, and creating like a scarce amount of it using NFTs will give you like a better, you have a better option to actually make money off your art, rather than just like, oh, I sold it to one person and then they gave it away to everyone else.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard about these, because a lot of music people are doing.
Yeah. I think it's the biggest one I heard was Kings of Leon next album will be a NFT album. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark Cuban has GIFs of him like clapping or pointing at something, and like, those are worth money. Only like 100 of them.
Yeah, it's like this is like the like the same people are doing like the GameStop shit. Like that's the people like really getting into the stuff right now, where they're just like, this is mine.
Yeah. This is my world now.
Or there's like that one dipshit that like raised the money for like insulin or whatever, and like he bought that one Wu-Tang album for $1 million, and like as far as I know, it's
really
yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
So it's So like this really hasn't really taken off. It's just kind of like a circle of those dipshits jerking each other off, throwing money around to like, see, I own this thing.
Well, that's something I heard from who was it? One of the podcasts I listened to, and they were talking about like the amount of free capital in this country now is insane, and so there's just like idiots can access virtually unlimited amounts of money to do stupid things. Because he said it's like the worst shit you ever saw on the Silicon Valley TV show. Times like 1,000 people might lose their jobs if this dumb shit doesn't work, and they said that's because there's no corporate tax rate essentially at this point. So and everything and a lot of these, there's a lot of like venture capital funds and people that are putting money into things, and it's like they have so much money. It's like, yeah, you want to throw a baseball to the moon? I mean, yeah, we might make some money off that, just crazy shit like that. And that's where people are saying like, it's like, yeah, this is what happens when you give the idle rich too much money. They start coming up with these really unlikely, scenarios, just like throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks type nonsense, but it involves billions of dollars just being shitted away into nothing. And it's like, yeah, this is a real problem in this country. But the person I was listening to was also like pretty much a communist economics person. So it's like, okay, yeah, I know you feel that way, but
Well, also the other just thing they were talking about is like, apparently that there is a ecological cost to the blockchain.
oh yeah,
Because the power that's spent to actually powering the blockchain.
oh, to mine the coins and stuff, like, yeah,
It's like apparently if you add all that together across the world, it's like it'd be a country unto itself with the 16th largest power using country in the world.
I didn't know it was like that, but I knew there was a lot of
if you
like,
if you add it all together,
rooms
it
of
equals a country's power consumption.
yeah, it's stupid. It's a bunch of nonsense. But at least Elizabeth Warren won't go on TV and chastise you for it. Elizabeth Warren, champion of the people, who was out there like, oh, upsetting the put options market is a bad thing for America. It's like, who are you the mouthpiece for again? It's like, why are you even talking about this? You should be like, well, it's fun that the little guy is getting, but they're not really the little guy. It's just it's a bunch of people leading some little guys around, but there's also assholes behind it with lots of money. And
that was the thing. Also, like on the GameStop thing, the company that makes Roblox.
Yeah, I heard about that. They had an IPO.
Yeah, and like they thought like it might be worth $4 to $5 billion, and like it's worth, because of these dipshits, it's worth $45 billion.
Yeah, all these autistic weirdos on Reddit is like, I know that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange world out there. Well, it's just a bunch of people that like don't want to pick up the pitchfork. It's like, oh, we're going to take the system back this way. It's like, no, it's going to take pitchforks and gallows like it always does. You're not going to bypass that. I know you want to do it with some clever way where everyone ends up alive, but the problem is if you leave the bad people alive, they just come into power again. They don't give up. They're not like, oh, you won, I'm going home. No.
See, the meme economy used to be a thing where it's like you rate memes and how long they'll last and whether and now it's just a literal thing. It's like, no, the economy is the meme.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's interposed itself in a strange way. But yeah.
Yeah, my favorite meme template, and this one's like super old now, but was the astronaut that holds the gun at the other astronaut who's looking away, and it's the always has been meme. Yeah, I really love that one.
I love that one.
It's super stupid, but I loved it.
Yeah, well, it's because it's graphically, it's like, what is this? And then it's just something, it's asinine dumb. It's like, damn, this looks great, but so simple. Or is it? The pseudo depth of, philosophy. All right. Well, that's all I got. We got time theft tonight, folks. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.